Hello and welcome to The Fostering Diaries. My name is Sarah and I am a foster carer. I am a single foster carer in the UK, and here on this channel I talk all about my experience as a foster carer, whether that is taking placement calls, accepting new children, how I go about setting up a bedroom for children, dealing with contact, dealing with bridging to adoption, all the things that are part of being a foster carer, and I hope to help other foster carers out by sharing my experience. In this video, we're going to take a look at the possible placement calls that I have been getting. So I have been on the sort of vacancy list, as it were, since sort of mid-December. The previous children that were with me moved on, and that means that I have vacancies, obviously. I've got bedrooms to fill, spaces where I can accept new children and have new placements, and so I'm on the vacancy list, and I thought it would be interesting, maybe, I hope it is interesting for new foster carers, or maybe old foster carers, I don't know. Old foster carers, I don't mean old age old, I mean experienced. I mean, you kind of know how it works. In this video I'm just going to share my first month on the vacancy list and kind of what that looks like, what calls I get coming in, and you know, what I accept or don't accept, and just how it all works. Sometimes, like, I've been on the vacancy list for like a day and something's come through, and sometimes you can be on the vacancy list for a lot longer. It depends on so many different factors, and so I just thought I would share my experience. So let's flash back to just before Christmas. It is about a week or so before Christmas, and I've just had a call from the fostering placement team for a potential placement, potential match, and it is for a sibling group. It's a 2 and a 5-year-old. I hate this just before Christmas. It's just like the crappiest time. Like, it's crap at any time of year, anything like this happening, but I just hate it just before Christmas. But anyway, had a call. I've said yes to the match, and we'll sort of see what happens. It is potentially for today. I'm not going to do anything in terms of getting anything sorted or whatever, because I don't know, you know, what will happen. We'll wait and see. It's a few hours later, and I've just had another call off the duty team to say that the placement is no longer needed because the children have been able to go to family members, which is so nice. Like, it's just, especially just before Christmas, it's so nice if they're able to go to another family member rather than coming to me, a complete stranger. So I'm kind of pleased, to be honest. It's the following day, and I've had another call. This one, and let me just grab my pen and paper. I recommend, if fostering is like if they phone you, grab a pen and paper and write down everything they say. Let me just grab my scrawlings. What did I write? Yeah, so it was for a sibling group of 3, and like, for me, ideally, it's like a sibling group is what I want to take on, and you know, especially like a sibling group of 3. But this one was, I'm just looking at what sort of the ages were. I generally would take younger, and it's not that I'm opposed to taking older in the future maybe, but my personal thought right now is, with Stephen being 17, there's just certain things that I don't feel comfortable with sort of accepting into the house, and this was unfortunately one of them. There was like a 16-year-old girl. They were all girls, and they were like 16, what did I write? Sort of like 16, 14 and 7, and I just didn't feel that that was appropriate. And it's always just so horrible saying no. It just is. It's just, you feel like crap about it. But it is important, and I talk all the time about how important it is to kind of set those boundaries for yourself and for your family as the foster carer, and as, you know, your own children, or as your partner, whoever's in the house. It's important that you understand those boundaries of what everyone is accepting of, and I don't feel happy with, you know, like a 16, 14-year-old girl being, I just don't, you know, all sorts of things can happen. I'm not saying it would, but I just don't want to, you know, potentially put Stephen in that situation, or, yeah, I'm just not happy about it. So I've said no, unfortunately, to this placement call. Hopefully they will find another wonderful foster carer who can who can take them on. Just had another call. It is Christmas Eve, so we're getting really close to Christmas, and this is just such a crappy thing to be happening to these people on the run up to Christmas. But I actually missed the call. They left me a voicemail saying like sort of what it is. It's just for one child. I'm trying to get back in touch with them, but so far not had any luck in getting back in touch with them. This one is probably something that I wouldn't really take on in normal circumstances, but with it being sort of so close to Christmas, it's one child, it could just be that we just need to get through Christmas and then we find them another foster carer. I don't know, but I'm going to keep trying to get in touch with them to sort of have more of a conversation about what the situation is, and we'll see. A few hours later and I finally managed to get back in touch with the duty team. It's a nightmare trying to get back in touch with them. Obviously they're always on the phones and stuff, so yeah, they're busy. But yeah, finally got in touch with them, and they don't actually need a foster carer anymore for this child. Well, they do, they found another one. So yeah, so I am no longer needed, which is fine. So I'm kind of thinking that is probably going to be it before Christmas. I can't imagine, I mean maybe, we'll see, but I can't imagine there'll be any more. Like I am on the like emergency thing, so I mean I could get a call any day, any time, you know, any time of, what am I trying to say, any time of day or night, like any day of the year, I'm assuming. I have just had a call about a placement, and we were going through it. It's a sibling group and we were going through it on the phone, but as you can see, I'm out and about. I'm on a little hike in the middle of nowhere, and I've got absolutely terrible signal, and it was just awful trying to get the information like across from them to me, and then from me, we just like, you just kept breaking up, and it was just awful. And then it cut out, and oh, it's so frustrating. I've tried phoning back and it just cuts out. But it's it would have been a potentially, there was a few issues with it. I say issues, sort of like logistical things really, but I was going to say yes to the placement. I'm going to keep trying every so often on this walk. I'm going to keep trying to phone back and see if I can get through to say yes, but yeah, what a pain. It was for potentially either tonight or tomorrow. So finally been able to have a conversation with the duty team. I'm not out on my walk anymore, I'm somewhere where I can get a signal. Finally managed to get back in touch with me, and there is a few logistical, I think I've said there's a few logistical potential logistical issues with the placement in terms of getting them to places, but I've sort of provisionally said yes, and so it's going to the social workers now to see whether they can, like, they'll need like potentially to put on like school transport or stuff, but we'll see how it goes. I've said yes and we'll see what happens. I've also just got a bit more information on that call that it wouldn't be for today, which is a good thing. It would be for tomorrow if it's happening. Honestly, I don't know whether the social workers will kind of agree to the things that I've sort of said that I would need maybe in place for the placement to happen, because it's for two children and one would be going to school and one wouldn't be going to school, and it's a fair way away, and I don't want to have to take, like, the drive to school isn't necessarily an issue, although it would be an issue for this school child obviously, but it also obviously wouldn't be fair to the child who wasn't going to school for them to be in the car, because they would have to do like the 4 trips there and back and there and back in a day, which is a lot. So yeah, I'm just going to see if they can put on some morning transport, because in the afternoon there's contacts and things, but we'll see. A few days later, and I thought I would just update you on that call and that placement, and the update is that I haven't had an update. This sometimes happens, that they just sort of forget that they've ever phoned you. I just assume that for whatever reason, either they found someone else more suitable, or the placement isn't needed, or you know, as a family member or something. I just assume that that's what's happened. It would be nice for someone to let me know, but it's not a big deal. I don't find it a big deal anyway. I know that some people maybe would, but if I desperately needed to know, I could always phone my social worker and ask them. But as far as I'm concerned, like, if they haven't been in touch with me, they don't need me. So. It is another week. In fact, it's Friday of another week. Things always seem to happen on a Friday in terms of since I last spoke to you. So I didn't have any calls like all early on in this week. I think probably sort of around Christmas and sort of that whole Christmas thing has died off now. I did get a call last night. I was fast asleep. It was about 11:30 or so that I got this call, and they left me a voicemail, but I only saw it when I woke up this morning at like 5:30, 6. It was obviously, you know, an emergency thing for last night, but it is, like I say, Friday afternoon, and I've just had a call about well, it's a pretty large sibling group, to be honest, but they're potentially, which is always really sad when they do this, but they're potentially going to have to split up the sibling group because it is just such a large sibling group. I've spoke about it with Duty. I'm going to speak to my social worker and have a little chat about it, because there's just some logistical issues. I mean, whether we just, I don't know, but everything I seem to be getting is just very far away in terms of where the children go to school and, you know, where contact would be and stuff. And, you know, it's not ideal for me to be doing the driving. More importantly, it's not ideal for the children to be having, you know, sort of like it's an hour long drive in the morning to get to their schools. So I'm not sure. I've kind of provisionally said sort of maybe yes. There just aren't carers who will accept the larger sibling groups. So if you are thinking of becoming a foster carer, I would definitely say, like, you know, we definitely need foster carers who will take larger groups of siblings. But like I say, yeah, I've kind of provisionally said yes. They're in court this afternoon. We'll see how things sort of progress over the afternoon. It's about half an hour or so later, and I've spoken to my social worker, I think twice, a few times. Anyway, I've been sat like pen and paper and with my maps app, trying to just figure out, you know, what the realistic thing would be. And after conversation with my social worker, we kind of think that realistically, it's not really doable. It would mean probably leaving the house at around 7, just after 7 every morning, which, you know, isn't really that, it's not really doable for the children. That's long days, and, you know, if they had contact after school, potentially with parents, which, you know, would probably be put in place, they're really long. Like, they're leaving the house at 7, you know, maybe not even getting in until 6 o'clock at night or something. That's very long days. Whether that really works for them. Literally 2 minutes later, and I've just had a call off a Duty team to say that the placement is not needed. They've sorted something out so that all the kids can stay together, which is wonderful. It's the following week, and I have had some phone calls with Duty today. They phoned me quite early this morning about a sibling group, a potential placement, which, to be honest, if you were to ask me what would my ideal placement look like in terms of like number of children and, you know, everything, this is pretty much what my ideal placement would look like. Sibling group of 3, all fairly young in terms of their schooling. It's, you know, pretty close by. It's not too bad to get to and from schools in the morning and afternoon. So of course I said yes to it. It's a weird thing when you say yes to a placement and you sort of, you do start sort of planning and thinking in your head all the different things, which I kind of started doing a little bit, and then a couple of hours later I got a phone call from Duty to say that they'd put it forward, because so once Duty phone me, I say yes, that then goes to the social workers that kind of have to agree on it. And I'm assuming, well, I don't know which social worker or who said what, but someone has said no to it because of the fact that I'm potentially only available until April, which is such a pain because, well, as it turns out, actually, they didn't really need, they only needed a placement for one of the children, so it wasn't going to happen as they said anyway. But this whole sort of the building works, the reason why I'm only potentially available till April is because we're going to start work on the house, and I don't even know if April is a realistic thing that's happening. It could be that the house doesn't start until October, so I need to chase up with my builders and things, when are we actually starting, because if that's the reason that, you know, more or less anything that comes in fostering wise, is it going to be that social, like that it's always no? I would imagine, like, absolutely, I get it, it makes sense, this is in no way a criticism, because of course, why are you going to place children with me end of January if I'm only available until, you know, April time, as like a task centred as a short-term foster placement, because like they say 6 months for those, but they always run longer than that, and I can't even see through that 6 months, and so they would have to upset the, you know, like break that placement up, potentially. And so is it that realistically I'm only on the list for like real emergencies? And I don't know, I need to chase up with my builder what on earth is happening, and is it going to be April is the date, or what's the situation? Because, like, as it turned out, they didn't need a foster carer for all of those children, but is that just what's going to happen going forward, that it's always going to be a no from the social workers? I mean, and I imagine, yes, it is always going to be a no, realistically. So that has been the last kind of 4 or 5 weeks on the vacancy list. I have had quite a number of calls come in, as you've seen. I've accepted quite a few of them, but they just haven't happened for various different reasons. As I was just talking about in the last clip, definitely is something for me, a big factor as to potentially why placements aren't happening. You know, a big reason is that if a family member comes up, then children, we always try to encourage that children stay with family members. You know, if grandma can take them, or an auntie or someone, we always do encourage that. I say we, the system encourages that, and so like that has been what's happened a few times. But I'm thinking that, you know, realistically, they are not gonna agree, which I've completely understand. They're not gonna say yes to me accepting a placement if I'm only available for the next kind of 3 months. It is realistically gonna be more like desperate emergencies, or like respite for other foster carers, because it's just, I completely agree, to be honest, with it, that it wouldn't be fair to take on children where, like, short term, we tend to try to do it, the guideline is to do within 6 months. It's never really done within 6 months, it's always a bit longer, and I'm only available for 3 months, and so it's not really fair for me to be taking on the short term, like the task centred placements, if halfway through it these children are going to have to go to another foster carer. So definitely need to find out from my builder what the situation is, because if it is that it's going to be months and months away, like at the moment with pandemic and stuff, builders apparently are massively busy. I don't really know, but apparently they're massively busy, and it's just a bit of a nightmare sort of industry at the moment. So if it is that it's not going to be till the end of the bloody year or something, that it's a completely different situation that I'm in. So I definitely need to sort that out and figure that all out when that starts, because that is like, that's a completely different situation. If I'm available until next January, I'm available, like, and I'll probably get, you know, I'm more available for the placements. But anyway, that is just something that I need to chase up on, and we'll see what happens going forward. But to be honest, I would not be very optimistic about getting a placement in the current situation that I'm in, with only being available till April. If you are a foster carer, do let me know about your experience on the vacancy list. How long, I've heard of some people having to wait like months and months and months and months. I've never really waited very long at all. In fact, this is probably the longest I've waited, and this is because of circumstances, particular circumstances. But yeah, let me know sort of your stories on being on the vacancy list down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. Share it with any fostering friends that you may have, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.